Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
What is up? Welcome into the GSMC Baseball Podcast. It is a Friday, as we will finish off our week with some baseball news here, as we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on this GSMC Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Dougherty. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. In this first segment, as always, we're going to go over the scores and highlights from the games on Wednesday and Thursday. Then I'm going to do some talk in the middle, just about some teams that are going through, hot teams. The Brewers are in first place right now. Mets are kind of looking at and just kind of sitting around behind the Phillies and the Braves, but the Nationals also with the Mets there, as the National League East gets more interesting at the moment as it goes by. But also going to talk about this big weekend in baseball, as we're going to have some really interesting matchups actually coming up this weekend. I know Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer will be facing off on Sunday, as the Indians and the Astros will go at it again. Those are two guys who have been in the news lately due to the fact that Trevor Bauer getting a little in the media with the comments on how Cole might be using pine tar to on his fingertips to get more spin on the ball, and puts the stats out there that, if you have an increased spin rate, you have better stats in general. So they're definitely a little bit of a media blitz right there, media battle. But I think it's just kind of mumbo jumbo. Well, whether Cole's using pine tar or not, he's still pitching very well, and nothing's happened yet, so he's going to get caught. I mean, you saw Michael Pineda get caught. He had pine tar on his neck or his hand or something like that. We've seen guys get caught and removed from games because of the rule violation, but I don't know why Trevor Bauer all of a sudden just singles out Garrett Cole. We'll talk more about that in the third segment, and then also as we go to the fourth segment, we'll highlight the games for the weekend. All right, without further ado, let's go through the scores from Wednesday and Thursday, as we had a full slate of games as we do every Wednesday. Then Thursday, I think, was a 8 games on Thursday. So we'll start with Wednesday, as it was a Justin Verlander start in Houston against the Giants. Astros and Giants. Houston gets the 2-game sweep of this one, as they win this one 4-1 behind Justin Verlander, who was excellent. George Springer hit a home run, his 10th, as Verlander pitched very well, went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 3 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts for Verlander. He gets the win there, his 6th win on the year. In Milwaukee, the Brewers beat the Diamondbacks 9-2 behind a nice pitching performance from the young right-hander Suter, who was actually pitching very well. Of course, I said right-hander. He's left-handed, of course. Brent Suter, of course, a 50-50 chance there. Brent Suter, he went 5 2/3 innings, allowed 2 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, did give a couple home runs, 1 to Paul Goldschmidt and 1 to Murphy, as Goldschmidt hit his 6th, Murphy his 5th, John Ryan Murphy getting his 5th home run there. But it's all about the Milwaukee bats, as Travis Shaw got his 12th home run, and Tyler Saladino hit his 3rd. Shaw's homer was a 3-run shot, and it was basically all they needed. They did get 9 runs, though, as they beat up on the Diamondbacks, who have fallen on some serious hard times, and are now they're still in second place in the division. That's how kind of right now the National League West is kind of weak right now. But especially with the Dodgers still kind of reeling down there with only 3.5 back. Giants are 2 back, and the Rockies are now in first place by a half game. In Minnesota, the Detroit Tigers beat the Twins 4-1. It was a nice pitching performance from Michael Fulmer, who goes 5 2/3 innings, allows 1 run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. He outduels Gibson, who went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. Did give a homer to Gundrum. Goodrum, who that's his fifth, a 2-run shot, and it was the bulk of the offense there for Detroit. They get the win there. In 10 innings, the Royals beat the Cardinals to get that series in St. Louis. Salvador Perez hit his 8th homer of the year, and Jacob Junis went 5 innings, allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, but the game was decided late in this one, as it was tied deep in this game 2-2, and then the Royals scored 3 runs in the 10th inning to take the lead, and they would hold that. It was a couple of singles. Gibutera knocked in a couple of runs with a single, and John Jay knocked him in to make that 5-2. In Washington, the Padres beat the Nationals 3-1 behind a nice pitching performance from Tyson Ross. Ross goes 6 2/3 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. The really only blemish was the home run he gave up to Matt Adams, his 11th on the season, as Adams was the only offense for the Nationals in this one, as they dropped that one 3-1. In Philadelphia, the Phillies blanked the Braves 4-0. Jake Arrieta goes 6 2/3 shutout innings, allowed 7 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. For Arrieta, his 4th win on the year. For the Phillies, it was a nice kind of a spread out offensive day as 4 guys combined for those 4 runs, knocking in those runs. In Texas, it was a slugfest in Texas as the Rangers outslugged the Yankees. Surprising. Well, not really. They have some bats in that lineup, but the Yankees usually known as if they're going to get in a slugfest with the Yankees, you better have your bats. And the Rangers did. 12-10 was the final. Home runs by Nomar Mazara for the Rangers. He's his 11th. Guzman hit his 5th on the season for the Yankees. Didi Gregorius hit his 11th. Neil Walker his 2nd, and Aaron Judge his 13th in this one. But that was in the loss as the Rangers. I mean, the Yankees were up in this one by a bunch. It was 10-5 going into the bottom of the 5th inning. The Rangers scored 2 in the 5th, 4 in the 6th inning to make it to give them the lead there, as they were up 11-10, and then a run in the 8th to make it 12-10. In Toronto, the Angels beat the Blue Jays 5-4. And this one is the Angels scored 4 runs in the 9th inning. Ohtani had a big hit in that one as he delivered a 2-run hit in this one to make it to get the Angels back in that game, as they were trailing pretty much the whole time. It was a 3-1 game. They scored 4 times, make it 5-3. Blue Jays did get a run in the bottom of the 9th, but it was not enough. All right, as we want to look at the stats from this one here really quickly. It was a Aaron Sanchez start. He actually went 5 shutout innings, allowed 2 runs, 2 hits on 5 walks, 2 strikeouts for Sanchez, but was taken out after 5 innings. He was at 97 pitches, so he was done for the day, and then it went into the bullpen, and the bullpen was not able to hold it. Tyler Clippard gave up the 4 runs there in the 9th, and his ERA not looking that great as he comes over to the Blue Jays, not doing too great in his first outing there. Tyler Skaggs pitched for the Angels, went 5 innings, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits, no walks, 6 strikeouts. He gave up a couple home runs as Travis hit his 2nd, and the Ingrid Stellarte hit his 11th on the season. In Tampa Bay, the Red Sox beat the Rays 4-1. David Price pitched nicely, went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 3 hits, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. He outdueled Chris Archer, who went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, as the Red Sox got some offense late. In this one, they scored 3 runs in the 9th inning to break the tie and get the win there in Tampa. In New York, the Mets dropped this one as another game. That's his 4 straight games now. I've just talked about the Angels scored 4 in the 9th. The Red Sox scored 3 in the 9th. And now the Mets allowed the Marlins to score 2 in the 9th inning to win this one, as the Mets were up 1-0 the whole game. Marlins come back in the top of the 9th to score and win this one, and then obviously holding the Mets in the bottom half of the inning. But it was a pitcher's duel going all the way through this one, as it was. Marlins and Mets. You don't really put those 2 teams, especially playing in Citi Field. But obviously, if you get a good pitching matchup, you never know really what can happen with those 2 teams. everything is kind of up in the air, obviously, with those two teams. I mean, the Mets, I never really trust the Mets. I don't know that in that whole AL East, it's kind of a I don't want to say crapshoot, but it kind of is right now at this point. Jacob deGrom went 7 innings, allowed no runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts for deGrom. As he got the no decision, obviously. Familia gets the blown save and the loss, as it was set up for deGrom, but it didn't really matter. Dan Strilly went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts to give up a homer in this one to Nimmo, his 3rd on the year, but it did not matter. It was a JT Realmuto single in the top of the 9th to tie the game, and then a Starlin Castro single to take the lead for the Marlins. In Cincinnati, the Pirates get an extra innings win against the Reds, 5-4 in 12 innings. So a lot of late action in a lot of these games on Wednesday. It was a big game, big day for late action, and obviously, as the Pirates scored in that 12th inning to take the lead. They got it on a Josh Harrison triple. As I look at the couple of home runs, Francisco Cervelli hit his 7th of the year. Scooter Gennett his 9th. Chad Kuhl went 6 innings, allowed 1 run on 5 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts to give up that home run to Gennett. And then Homer Bailey went 5 innings, allowed 4 runs on 10 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. He also gave the home run up to Cervelli. But both those guys got no decisions, as it was decided late in this one. In Cleveland, the Cubs were not able to scratch across a run as the against Plutko. The Indians beat the Cubs 1-0 in Chicago, as the rematch of that World Series was pretty did live up to the hype, as John Lister was outdueled. Plutko went 6 innings, allowed no runs on 2 hits, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. Lester went 7 innings, allowed 1 run on 6 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts for him. The only run in this game was scored on a Michael Brantley single in the top of the 3rd inning, and that was all they needed there for Cleveland. The White Sox blow out the Orioles 11-1 in Chicago on the south side this time, as both teams going at home right now. But in the south side, it was a win for the right-hander for the White Sox. Dylan Covey gets the win there. 7 innings, allowed 1 run on 6 hits, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts for Covey. His first win on the year. Alex Cobb did not pitch well for the Orioles in this one. He's now 1-6. The White Sox got home runs from Jan Mokonda. Engel hit his 1st of the year. Rodon his 1st of the year as well. So a bunch of new bats, new faces there for the White Sox. In LA, the Dodgers blanked the Rockies. Kenta Maeda pitching very nicely with 6 innings, 6 2/3 innings, allowed no runs on 2 hits, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts for Maeda. Kyle Freeland went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts for Freeland. No homers in this game, as the only runs were scored on a Logan Forsythe double and a couple of sacrifices. Well, Yasiel Puig on a fielder's choice, and then Matt Kemp a sacrifice. They call it a sacrifice double play, I guess, but I mean, you don't really get an RBI on those. Whether he tried to bunt or not, they did get 2 outs on that. But the run scored, Dodgers got the win there, 3-0. All right, we're going to go over Thursday. I mean, it's going to leak over the second segment a little bit here, as I do want to talk about a little bit before it gets Thursday, I want to finish off this segment before we go on a break for just a second. Around the league here, we're getting that was a pretty wild Wednesday. I mean, we had late inning games, we had some good pitching performances. We had games where, I mean, like I said, there's 3 games in a row. We had one team score 4 runs in the 9th. There was the Angels scored 4 runs in the 9th. The Red Sox scored 3, I think, and then the Mariners scored, or the Marlins scored 2 in the 9th inning to win. In baseball, the game is never over. It's never over. I mean, even if you're down by 3 or 4 or 5, you can come back and get a win, obviously, especially if you get a pitcher in there who's shaking in his boots a little bit. So, like Tyler Clippard in that game against the Angels, in the top of the 9th inning, it was a Shohei Ohtani single that knocked in a couple of runs. Nelson Simmons scored him on the single, and then that was pretty much all they needed. That was the that was the 4 runs right there. 2 4-run, basically 2 2-run singles for the Angels, and they got the win there. All right, we'll come back really quickly after the messages with the second installment of our scores from Thursday. Just quickly go through it. An 8-game slate on Thursday, so we'll do that really quick as we come back. All right, 1 sec.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to GSMC Baseball Podcast, as we're going to cover the games from Thursday really quickly here before we get into some talk on pretty much anything around the Major League Baseball. I got Mets Brewers up there right now. Actually, they played on Thursday. That's kind of funny. They look like they're going to start a weekend series in Milwaukee. It is we'll start there. As the Mets actually just blanked the Brewers at home. Rare, as Brandon Nimmo continues to play well for the Mets, the young outfielder there for the Mets. Yeah, he's been on base basically. He said 8 straight plate appearances. He was 4 for 4 on the night last night. But it was the pitching performance from Steven Matz that was the bright light for the Mets, as he went 6 innings, allowed no runs on 4 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts for Matz. Very economical there. And that one, as the bullpen was able to tied that one up. As I said, Nimmo was actually a home run. It looked like he was a home run shy of a cycle. Had 2 doubles, a triple, and a single. And got a homer there. It would have had that cycle, but he had 4 hits and 2 runs scored there for him, and also had a walk. So he was on base all 5 times he was at the plate. And for the Brewers, they put the ball in play, only 5 strikeouts, but couldn't really get anything going, as that's pretty much all it was for that one. In Texas, the Kansas City Royals came into Texas and beat the Rangers 8-2 in this one. It was a nice pitching performance from Danny Duffy. He gets the win, only his second on the year for the Royals. Left-hander went 7 2/3 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts for Duffy, as they get the win there in Texas. No home runs in this game, but it was a bunch of doubles and a bunch of singles, it looked like, that knocked in runs, got the runs up there for the Royals. In Tampa Bay, the Red Sox dropped this one to the Rays. 6-3 was the final. Was that game. I think they split that series in Tampa Bay. Blake Snell gets the win there, as the Rays offense came in clutch right there. They scored 2 in the first, 3 in the second off of Rick Porcello, and that was enough for Snell to get the win. He went 6 shutout innings, allowed 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. The Red Sox did get a run later in that game on a home run by Mitch Moreland, but that was not enough, as Porcello got roughed up. Only went 3 2/3 innings, allowed 4 earned runs, 6 total on 8 hits, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. Takes his second loss of the year. The Indians dropped this one in the start of this big, long 4-game series that's going to extend over the whole weekend. The Astros and the Indians. The Astros win this one 8-2 behind some offense from Bregman. Alex Bregman gets his 5th home run of the year off of Clevenger. Marisnick his 4th. Charlie Morton was pretty good, went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts for Morton, as Clevenger was he battled through 5 1/3 innings, but did give up 5 runs on 7 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts to give up that home run to Bregman, as the Astros get another win, and this one start off a nice long series. In Oakland, the A's get a win over the Mariners, and as they scored 4 in the first inning, and that was all they needed in this one, as the bullpen was able to hold it down for the A's. Lucas, as we kind of had their starter only went 2 innings, Only gave up 2 runs on 3 hits, 3 walks, 1 strikeout, but then it was all the bullpen. Yasmir Petit pitched 3 shutout innings, allowed 2 hits, 4 strikeouts, got the win in this one. Any home runs in this one for the A's? Let's just look really quick. Nope. And Baltimore and the White Sox, the Orioles get a win 9-3 in Chicago. Dylan Bundy goes 9 innings, a complete game for him, allowed 3 runs on 2 hits, 1 walk, 14 strikeouts for Bundy as he gets his 3rd win of the year. The only home run given up was to Rondon, his 2nd of the year, a 3-run homer. That was the only runs. That was the only blemish on Bundy's report card right there, a 4th inning 3-run homer. But it did not win as the Orioles had already taken a pretty good lead as they scored all 9 of their runs within the first 3 innings. And they get the win there. Mancini hit his 7th. Adam Jones hit his 9th on the year. In Toronto, the Angels beat up on the Blue Jays. Trout hit his 15th. Pujols his 7th on the year. The great pitching performance by Trompiano went 7 1/3 innings, allowed 1 run on 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts to give up a home run to Smith, but that was pretty much it. As the Angels get to win. Nick Tropiano pitched very nicely for them. In Cincinnati, the Reds get a win over the Pirates. The Pirates try to come back. They scored 2 in the 9th inning. Reds were up 5-2, but the bullpen was just enough to hold it down. The Reds got a grand slam from Eugenio Suarez and a solo shot from Winker to score their runs. Basically, that's all 5 runs right there. And get the win. David Freese hit his 4th of the year for the Pirates, and Meadows, the young rookie, got his 3rd already of the year in the 9th inning. In this one, Luis Castillo, the young right-hander for the Reds, went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs on 4 hits, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts to give that 1 home run, and that was it for Thursday. So, like I said, only 8 games on on Thursday. Is a shortened game. We're gonna have a full slate of games, obviously, all weekend. As we saw some series get started, some series were ending on Thursday. It's kind of that transitional day where you have teams that had say they started on Tuesday, had 3-game series, or started on Monday, had a 4-game series. Some teams have a 4-game weekend series that start on Thursdays and extend over the whole weekend, like we're going to see from the Indians and Astros. When they go in on that really quick here, I think that's kind of like that's going to be your AL. The Yankees and Red Sox obviously are going to have something to say about it. We'll see which team is going to... I'm kind of already going to say... I know it's May, but the Red Sox and Yankees are running away with that AL East, and one of them is going to be the number 1 wild card, one of them is going to be winning that division. Whoever wins that division will definitely have a leg up. I've already gone over why, but with the wild card game, we'll see whoever doesn't... Right now, it's the Yankees sitting in that wild card spot right now by 1 game. And they would be, if the season, they play the Mariners right now, so they're 3.5 up on the Mariners in that first wild card spot. So they'd host Seattle in Yankee Stadium. But the other 2 teams are the Astros and the Indians. They're leading their own divisions. They're playing this weekend, and I think they just played a couple weekends ago too. They played in Houston. I think they're playing in Cleveland now, or vice versa. Of course, as I look at my schedule here, yeah, they're playing in Cleveland. I was right. Don't doubt myself. As we have a great pitching matchup coming up today. Actually, I'll save that for the last segment, though, when we go over go over the weekend, what's going to be happening, all these matchups. And speaking of matchups, obviously, I just want to go over. Like I said, we were talking about the Mets and the Brewers. Mets are kind of just sitting there. They haven't gone away, though. You got to give the Mets credit. They've been kind of sitting. They had a great, obviously, hot start to the season, but now they're sitting still above at 25-21. They've won 6 of the last 10. So they're not really faltering. Not like we're seeing from other teams like the Diamondbacks for a reason. Diamondbacks were 10 games over 500 at one point. Now they're 25-24, a half game back, and for first place. So we've seen them falter a little bit, but the Mets, got to give them credit. They're getting some production out of their young arms. They're getting some production out of their young bats. So they have the pitching to do it. You have Syndergaard, you have DeGrom, Steven Matz. If he can be on, he's very good. You've got Jason Vargas, who can be decent. They have options there in that rotation for the Mets, and also they have some bats too. You got Cespedes, obviously. Brandon Nimmo is playing very well. If that whole lineup starts clicking, you got to watch out. That whole AL, the whole National League East I mean, take out the Marlins, of course. But the whole National League East is just, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see. I think there's definitely going to be 2 teams, if not 3 maybe, that make it to the playoffs in that one. Right now, the wild card, I mean, obviously the Central will have something to say about that. There's all these 3 divisions in the National League are very tight and have all four teams involved. I mean, there's all of them have kind of last place teams sitting in the cellar. Obviously, even San Diego is only 5.5 back, but they're still 9 games back under 500. The Marlins are 10.5 back. So, and then the Reds, obviously, but all of their teams, basically the top 4 teams in every division in the National League is in play right now. At least, I mean, obviously. Even the Padres are in play. They're 5.5 back. It's May, so there's lots of baseball to come. We obviously have to get through the whole summer, get through the second half of the season, as we're in the middle of the second quarter of the season right now. But with baseball, you see a lot of volatility, obviously. You see a lot of teams that falter. You see some teams like, I mean, that's why I said you got to give the Mets credit. You got to give the Mets credit, and they're just kind of cruising along right now, sitting underneath. As long as they keep the Nationals, I think, at bay, we'll look at their schedule coming up for the month of June. This is what I kind of like to do, like to forecast out these teams a little bit, see whether if there's any some rocky scheduling coming up, if there's any big road trips or anything. But looks like the Mets, they're going to have an interesting June. They got to play a bunch of good teams right now that are playing well. They do play the Diamondbacks; they're not playing that well, and the Marlins. But everybody else, Dodgers are still starting to turn it around. They're now 2 games against the Orioles. That'll be a little reprieve in the middle of their big series against the Cubs and then against the Yankees. They also have to play the Brewers and the Braves to finish out May. So, the Mets are going to have some tests coming up here, as they obviously are going to have that big. They have a 4-game series going on right now with the Brewers. Started off that well. They play the Braves actually in a 4-gamer as well, because they have a doubleheader on Monday to make up a rainout, and then they play the Cubs, Orioles, and Yankees in the next homestand. So before going back on the road to play the Braves 2 more times, Diamondbacks, and the Rockies. So definitely not a slouchy little schedule right there for the for the Mets coming up. For the Brewers, on the other hand, obviously they're playing the Mets right now. It's kind of interesting. Maybe I did plan that, maybe I didn't. You won't know. But they're the first team to 30 wins. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit more about them in this next segment here. But you got to give them credit. They're a team that kind of has had the ability to start off strong. They've been able to make the playoffs a couple times within the last few years, but they've never really been able to take that next step. If that's going to be this year, they obviously made a bunch of moves in the offseason to do that, with Yelich and Kane coming over from their respective teams. Obviously, Kane coming over from the Royals and the Yelich from the Marlins. But I think it's their pitching staff that's also been able to do it. Obviously, with Chase Anderson pitching very nicely, they got a nice start from the young left-hander last night. So Suter gets the win there, and they got a shutout performance in the game yesterday. So I'm just looking at who's at their stats for the lineup right now. I mean, the lineup is pretty nasty. I mean, obviously there were some people who were thinking, okay, they're going to trade a little bit, but they got that young first baseman Aguilar has been hitting well. I mean, didn't have the best game yesterday, but he's hitting .316 with 7 home runs, 23 RBIs. That's nice. I mean, even Pena, their catcher. But I mean, they got guys. Yelich is hitting .283, Kane's hitting .282, Saladino's hitting .364 right now, and it's probably a limited service. But I mean, yesterday isn't the best lineup. Isn't the best box score to look at them right now because they didn't score any runs. Obviously, Steven Matz pitched very nicely for them. Davies is supposed to be one of their bigger starters. Obviously, he was the one who pitched yesterday. But I was talking about the game on Wednesday when they got that good start from Suter, as I want to look at how they scored yesterday. I mean, because in that park, if you can hit home runs, obviously they scored 9 runs on Zach Godley, who's pitching very nicely this season for them. I mean, the whole Diamondbacks kind of club right now is going backwards, which kind of sucks for them. But Godley dropping that ERA gets all the way to. I mean, I saw him pitch against the Giants. He was dirty, but yeah, give up 8 runs, 6 of them earned. So, and Archie Bradley gave a run too. So that's not great. But they're getting home runs, they're getting protection from Shaw, getting protection from even Saladino there at shortstop. So Yeah, I like Travis Shaw as a third baseman. He's a good player, a lot of power. Needs to get that average up a little bit as I'm going to see him, but even though he's got 12 home runs in the year, you can't knock that, obviously. So we're going to come back and do some more talk on the Brewers and probably all of the National League Central a little bit here, as we'll look at some matchups as well throughout this third segment and talk about what's going to be happening this weekend too, as we will be leading into the final segment. We'll go over those games for the weekend. So just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Baseball Podcast. As I want to do a little more deeper dive on the Brewers. Is this going to be a team that can sustain this? I mean, in the National League Central, you got the Cubs, Cardinals, Pirates are playing well. I think the Pirates are going to fade away a little bit more. As they're still 5 games over 500. They're still playing well. They have lost 6 of the last 10, but so have the Cubs. They're actually ahead of the Cubs right now. The Cubs are sitting in 4th place in the National League Central, only 3.5 back, but at 25-21, starting up a series this weekend with the Giants. The Cubs are, and the Pirates and the Cardinals are going to have a series this weekend too. A little interdivision action. They'll definitely shuffle around what's going on. Obviously, with lots more time to talk about this when it comes to these races, but it's interesting to look at it how. I can keep coming back to the Pirates this whole time and thinking that they're just waiting for them to kind of fade away with the lineup, with the roster they have, and the fact that they keep up so much talent in the offseason, but they've been able to figure it out and keep it rolling there in Pittsburgh. But the Brewers, at least they're living up to their hype. They created the hype over the offseason. They made the moves, and they are competing well in a tough division. So we'll look at their schedule coming up for this month, end of this month and next month, as the Brewers, obviously we have them playing the Mets this weekend, the 4-game series with the Mets. That'll be fun to watch. I'll definitely be coming back and talking about that on Monday for sure. But they're finishing off this homestand with the Cardinals before they go on the road to face the White Sox, Indians, and Phillies. So I mean, two of those three series will be interesting. The Phillies still playing pretty well, still in first place in the East over there. Obviously, the the Indians in first place in their division will do a quick 2-game series there. And after they play the White Sox, they'll say probably take care of the White Sox. But the next 2 series, we've got to play tough, and then they come home for the Cubs and the Phillies at home. So before they go back on the road for Pirates, so lots of interleague, lots of divisional games right now are in this division. They're going to play the Cardinals, Cubs, Pirates, and Reds in this month. So pretty much everybody in their division they're going to be playing. So. Yeah, and Pirates. They're playing literally every team in their division this month, in the month of June. So a big moving month for the Brewers before I was looking at the rest of their schedule here. I mean, has it really been that soft? I mean, so you should do well when you play. I mean, they got to give them credit. They played the Marlins and the Reds in a home game in a home stand in April. Yeah, they won 6 of the 7 games they played in that one, and then they also had a homestand, obviously just coming off a sweep of the Diamondbacks at home before they took 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks in Arizona, and then took 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. So, I mean, the thing is that looking at them, they're taking 2 out of 3. They're not getting swept ever, and they're taking 2 out of 3 from a lot of different teams. The one sweep they did have to take was to the Cubs in Chicago. They got swept in a 4-game series where they scored all of 2 runs in that whole series, but that was back in April. Just Brewers, you got to give them credit. Got to give credit. They figured out how to kind of just navigate this schedule and use timely hitting and some pitching. Obviously, their bullpen has been good too. Finding that Josh Hader guy. I don't think is his name really Josh Hader. I don't think that's really his name. It's Hader. Hader's his last name, but he's that guy who pitches absolute lights out. And he's been very good. As I'm looking at their starters ERA, I mean, it's not. They got Luis Chastain pitching well. They got Chase Anderson pitching all right. Bruce Suter's there as well. But as far as everybody else here, looking at they have Junior Guerra and their lineup. and then John Hader. Yeah, so it's Josh Hader. Josh Hader. There we go. Close. And then Zach Davies, that's their rotation isn't really anything to write home about. I mean, Chase Anderson, Suter, Chastain, Guerra, and Davies. That's their rotation. It's not really any household names. It's kind of a piecemeal rotation, but they've been able to figure it out. They got Hader at the back end of the bullpen. He actually leads the team in strikeouts. Their closer leads the team in strikeouts with 58 strikeouts. I mean, he did go that 2 innings where he struck out everybody. As far as hitting, nobody's hitting over 300. I've qualified hitters. Santana. They got Yelich and Kane at 280, and Shaw with 13 homers. So it's just they're finding offenses all spread around. Everybody on the team pretty much has a home run. It seems like Shaw has 12. Thames and Aguilar both have 7. Kane, Braun. They have hitters. So they're basically if they don't hit, it's probably going to be tough. They got to keep hitting throughout this whole season. As obviously that's something you'd recommend for every team, but for a team like this where you don't have any major arms in the rotation, you think that the Mets lineup would be a little bit more of have some more firepower. Look at their 2 rosters next to each other. Obviously, I think they have better, maybe a little bit better bats other than Cespedes and maybe Jay Bruce, Asdrubal Cabrera. But that's pretty much it, as you have Kane, Yelich, Braun, Aguilar, over Waldo Arcia at shortstop hitting well. So, not hitting that well, but he has the ability to do it versus the Mets lineup. They had to go and trade Matt Harvey to get a catcher. Devin Resurrecto is coming in to catch for them and has played very nicely, actually, for the Mets in his limited service there, coming over from the Reds. As they needed some catcher help, they weren't getting any production from their catching position. Obviously, with the injury to Travis d'Arnaud, it's a big hole for them to fill, and they were able to get Mesoraco to do it. But if they can keep getting Brandon Nimmo to play well, obviously Cabrera and Bruce they're veterans. They're gonna probably hit to their numbers, and then obviously Cespedes, when he plays, is a force to be reckoned with there for the Mets lineup. So these are 2 teams that I think are going to have to keep it going, obviously, throughout this whole season in order to stay in contention. I think the Brewers, they just have a tendency to get in their own way. The pitching kind of goes away. The hitting goes away at the same time. And the pitching is always going to be there. The hitting is there in that park should usually be there, but that's how you go on losing streaks if they kind of match up at the same time, where all of a sudden your pitchers who aren't that have a high of a pedigree, they're not. There's no Scherzers out there. There's no Syndergaards. There's no DeGroms. Nobody out there for the Brewers. They're kind of have a no-name rotation right now. Chase Anderson, woo, and especially when you have that fall off a little bit, and the hitting all of a sudden falls off with it at the same time. That's when you go on a losing streak, and that's when you can find yourself tumbling down the standings. Obviously, when you have some good teams on your heels, it's not like when you're Cleveland Indians, where you can have a couple tough stretches where you can end up being 24-24 and being first place by a game and a half because the rest of the teams underneath you are crappy. But compared to the American League Central to the National League Central, it's going to be a dogfight in the National League. It could be a dogfight in both those, but I expect the Indians to run away with this American League Central. The National League Central, though, it could be. I think the Pirates are going to falter eventually. That their roster talent is not good enough It's just really, I mean, they got three good pieces there with Marte and Harrison and Polanco. Obviously, if Meadows, the young guy coming up, is going to keep playing well, then they'll probably be fine. But it's really going to matter with their pitching. Tyone has been up and down. Cool's been up and down. They need to figure out if they can get a big ace. Maybe they're gonna make a deal in the trade deadline. I know the Brewers are. I know the Cubs probably will. I know the Cardinals probably will. If they can, all those teams are going to be in position to do that because they're all in win. Pittsburgh is playing on house money. They've been playing on house money since game 1 of this season. This was not an expectation for them. When you have low expectations and you exceed them quickly, then you're like, okay, we're riding on a high here. If we just take a little dip, then nobody really is going to bat an eyelash. But the Brewers, high expectations. Cubs, high expectations. Cardinals, usually high expectations. And right now, the Cubs sitting at 25-21, 3.5 back. They got some work to do. Like I said, they got a big series coming up this weekend with the Giants at Wrigley Field. That'll be interesting, and I'll be watching that one closely and come back on Monday to talk to you guys about it. But that whole AL Central is similar. Same thing. I mean, same kind of thing over in the East. The Phillies and the Braves. I think the Phillies were expected to be closer than the Braves. Braves were not expected to be this good at all. But the Phillies were supposed to be closer. They were definitely working their way up there in the whole rebuilding phase of it. But the Braves and the Phillies both, I mean, I say the Braves are more on house money. The Phillies probably not as surprising that they're playing this well. They had a good end of the season last year when Rhys Hoskins came up last year. Now he's obviously in a full season this year. But the Nationals, crazy expectations. Mets fans kind of know just to be more wavery. I mean, you can be passionate and say, yes, go Mets, but you're like, okay, it's still the Mets. No offense to the Mets fans out there. You guys are hanging tough in there in that NL East, at 25-21 as well. You have the same record as the Cubs. What can you ask for? And you're pretty much in the same position right now, 3 back of first place. And, Nationals, they got some work to do. I mean, the Cubs and the Nationals are honestly in very similar positions. The expectations are absolutely through the roof. I would say that obviously the Cubs' expectations are higher than the Brewers because the Cubs made it to the NLCS last year and got whopped by the Dodgers. Dodgers are nowhere to be found right now. They have made a little bit of a comeback. They're still 5 games under 500, but that the NL West is not very fun to look at right now. As there's some teams in there not playing very well. The Dodgers are, like I said, 5 games under, but they're 3.5 back. If they were in the American League East, they'd be 11 back. Like the Toronto Blue Jays have a better record than the Dodgers. They're 11 games back of the Yankees and Red Sox. That's just the difference between how well your team's the front runner is playing or not. And the front runners in the American League East are playing quite a lot better than the front runners in the National League West, and pretty much in any in any other division throughout the league here. I'm looking at this. Houston finally starting to pull away. Angels have really dropped down, faulted. I'm just looking at these standings here. I want to look at some outlooking schedules. As we did look at the Braves and Phillies, I look at the Mets. I'll look at the Nationals, see who they're playing coming up, and the Cubs as well. First, we're going to take a look at the Cubs. I want to see the Cubs are playing coming up in June, because this is going to be June and July are moving time. It's moving time for a bunch of these teams. You got to get through the summertime. You're going to have All-Star break mixed in there. It's moving day for a lot of these teams. Moving month for a lot of these teams. If you can hopefully get a little soft spot in the schedule coming up, the Cubs, they are going to be hosting the Giants for 3, then they have the Pirates for 3 in Pittsburgh, so they have to go to Pittsburgh and go to New York. That'll be a tough little stretch, honestly, right there. 2 tough teams, and then they come home for the Phillies and Pirates. Because like I said, sometimes you get these months. Usually it's to start off the season, like the Cardinals. The Cubs did play a bunch of National League Central Division teams. They played the Brewers twice, the Pirates and the Cardinals, but in June, they're going to be playing a lot of their division foes as well, as they're playing the Phillies, Pirates, Brewers, Cardinals, and Reds in this division. All their division teams basically in June, and as well as a couple series against the Dodgers, and then one against the Phillies as well. So there's going to be some tough sledding. Obviously, that 4-game little series against the Reds will be interesting. Then they have a 4-gamer against the Dodgers at home. on the road after they play the Dodgers at home. So it'd be interesting how they schedule these games sometimes, where they have teams play twice in 2 weeks. I mean, they play the Dodgers at home for 3, go on the road to Cincinnati for 4, then they go to LA for 4. So interesting how the scheduling all works out there. All right. We'll wrap it up for this segment as we'll come back with the final segment of the day. We'll go over the games for the weekend. I'll highlight some pitching matchups. I know we have some really, really, really good ones coming up this week, as I've already seen one, and I can't wait to talk about it. So we'll come back in just a moment, so stay tuned.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Baseball Podcast. Final segment of the day, final segment of the week, as we'll get you ready for some great matchups this weekend around the league, as we have some cool series going on. First off, the big one, it's in Cleveland. It's the Astros and the Indians. I mean, if the Yankees and Red Sox both falter, you can see both these teams in the playoffs fighting for a chance to go to the World Series for sure. I mean, Yankees and Red Sox will have something to say about that, but it will be a great matchup for you this tonight. I bet you this game will be on national. They'll have it on MLB Network on national television for you. So it'll be Dallas Keuchel against Corey Kluber. Keuchel still trying to figure it out this year. Hasn't really the record doesn't really show how good of a pitcher he is. I mean, he's gotten that ERA down for sure. That 3.43 ERA. I mean, that's how good Houston is. I mean, look at the rotation. The Astros. This is just ridiculous. They go and get Verlander last year during the waiver trade, the non-waiver trade deadline. Passes waivers because of a big contract. Gets through waivers. Gets on the team. So they have Verlander. They already had Keuchel, Morton, and McCullers, and then they go get Garrett Cole this offseason. So their rotation is Justin Verlander, Dallas Keuchel, Garrett Cole is their third starter. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. They have 4 aces. They literally have 4 aces: Keuchel, Cole, and Verlander. McCullers, very good young pitcher, and then Charlie Morton won the World Series for them last year. So, I mean, if there was a rotation, that's really one of the only rotations around the league that I can name all 5 guys. I mean, I could probably, if I thought about it really hard, I might be able to name the Mets a rotation, or maybe the Phillies or the Braves, because I've talked about them for so much, or maybe the Yankees, or the Red Sox. But I mean, that's pretty much it. As far as other rotations go, I mean, if Josh Tomlin can get his stuff together, he's right now in the bullpen for the Indians. The Indians could have a very nice rotation with Carrasco, Kluber, Clevenger. Obviously, Tomlin not in the rotation right now. He got shoved in the bullpen because he's had a pretty crappy start to the season. But Dallas Keuchel, like I said, 3-6, 3.43 ERA. So he'll figure out the 3-6 and 48 strikeouts. Kluber is 7-2 with a 2.36 ERA, 71 strikeouts. He did face Houston last time they were there, just last week. He allowed 2 runs on 6 hits with 10 strikeouts in a win. So that's a good little sign there for the Indians, as they'll be facing, after taking the loss yesterday at home. They get the Clevenger not pitching that well, but it'll be Kluber to try and stop the bleeding there. In Washington, there's a lot. We'll come back to some of the bigger series coming up this weekend. Is Washington and the Marlins will be getting a NL East tilt going on down in South Beach. Max Scherzer against Jose Urena. As Urena is still looking for his first win of the year. Had a pretty. I mean, they could say it's misleading. They could say the record doesn't show. I mean, a record for a pitcher is not the best stat at all, like at all for him. His ERA isn't great, isn't terrible. It isn't great. It's 4.55 right now, 45 strikeouts. He's started 10 times. The Marlins haven't won any of them. He's also 0-7. So whether he can pitch better or just needs a little more run support, I have you. As far as pitching better, the best pitcher in the league right now is Max Scherzer, 7-1 with a 1.78 ERA, 104 strikeouts. 104 strikeouts. That's a product of people just striking out. The strikeout rates are up across the league this year. People are trying to go for it's kind of turning into home run derby ball. Strikeouts are, people are like, okay, might as well strike out or hit a homer versus hitting a fly ball or something like that. I think it's caught or a ground ball. Ground balls are death now. Ground balls are death around the league. Because it used to be ground balls, line drives get you wins. Now ground balls are outs because the defenses around the league are so good. So that's how it goes there for everybody. And now we're seeing Scherzer 104 strikeouts. Some of the reason for that, like I said, being the fact that people are becoming more okay with striking out. They're not shortening it up at all. They're not protecting as much with 2 strikes. They're still swinging hard for the fences with 2 strikes. White Sox and Tigers are going this weekend. A little AL Central tilt. Mike Fiers against Ronaldo Lopez. Fiers 4-3 with a 4.57 ERA, 28 strikeouts. Lopez 1-3 with a 2.98 ERA. Did have his best career game last time out. He went 8 scoreless innings against the Rangers. And Tampa Bay, another divisional game going as the Rays and the Orioles will get started. This is actually a weird note, as I see they're going to have Sergio Romo start again. He's listed right now as a starter for the Rays. In this one, he started back-to-back games over the weekend against the Angels. He went 2 1/3 innings of shutout ball at 6 strikeouts. This is over 2 games. He pitched 1 inning in the first game, struck out the side, pitched an inning and a third the last game. I think the second game struck out 3 of the 4 outs he got. So the Orioles have yet to announce a starter for today's game, so it's kind of interesting. We'll see if they're going to bring up somebody to pitch this one. In Boston, a good series getting started as 2 teams on the top of the division. Kind of very similar. They're similar in not really similar, close in record as they're only a few games off, but very similar situation here as we have the Braves and the Red Sox. One team is supposed to be good. One team is supposed to be Well, they're getting there, obviously, but they're both in first place, and they're both in first place by like a half game because the Phillies are hot on the heels of the Braves, and then obviously the Yankees hot on the heels of the Red Sox, so they both need to get wins, and then we're playing each other here as they come in with, look at this, look at these lines for these 2 pitchers. Both guys are 4-1. Julio Teheran against Eduardo Rodriguez, by the way, sorry. Both guys are 4-1. Rodriguez has a 4.13 ERA, Teheran a 4.17 ERA, and then they're about 10 strikeouts off as Rodriguez has 58 strikeouts, Teheran is 47. So Teheran more of that stinker baller, get pitch to contact guy. But it's kind of interesting how they both are looking for their 5th win of the year today at Fenway Park. All right, in Philadelphia, it'll be an interleague tilt as we have another one, as the Toronto Blue Jays will be going against the Philadelphia Phillies. It'll be Sam Gavigilo, I was pronounced that right, Gavigilo, for the Blue Jays, making his another spot start here as they're going to say he's either in the rotation or he's in the spot start. So he made a spot start, pitched very nicely with 5 1/3 scoreless innings against the A's. Obviously, Jaime Garcia is the injured guy right now, so it looks like Gavigilo is just in the rotation until Garcia is coming back. But if he wants to keep it going, he could find himself in another spot in that rotation if he keeps pitching well. And then Zach Eflin will be pitching for the Phillies. He's 1-0 with a 1.56 ERA, 17 strikeouts, as he replaced Ben Lively in the rotation for the Phillies. In Pittsburgh, a NL Central Division tilt as the Cardinals and the Pirates will be getting going at PNC Park today. John Grant against Joe Musgrove, a pair of young right-handers for both these teams, as the 3rd start of the year for Grant, as he's coming in for Adam Wainwright. Obviously, the Cardinals, the fact they've had so many injuries at the rotation, they've been playing well, even with the hardships they've had to face. Wainwright and Martinez both dinged up right now. Joe Musgrove, guy usually come out of the bullpen, but he's been a guy who's been able to pitch well on the starting position as well, as he's making his first start of the year after being set back with some shoulder problems over the spring. In New York, it's a great series getting going as the Angels and the Yankees will get started a series here as they will have Luis Severino and Andrew Heaney going. As I realize I'm cutting short, I'm getting close to 5 minutes here. I have a couple more days to get going here as I want to just talk about a couple more of these matchups. For Friday, we have A's and Diamondbacks, Patrick Corbin against Sean Manaea. That should be a good little matchup there in Oakland as the Diamondbacks will try and right their ship there in Northern California. In Milwaukee, it'll be Noah Syndergaard against Junior Guerra over there. And then I think that's pretty much it as far as notable starters for Friday. So it's going to go over to Saturday really quickly here as we're running. This show is just flying by for me. For the Braves and Red Sox on Saturday, it'll be Sean Newcomb against Drew Pomeranz. Newcomb pitching very nicely. He's 5-1, looking for a 6th win of the year with a 2.39 ERA. In Arizona, in Oakland, it'll be return of Clay Buchholz to the starting rotation, this time in an Arizona Diamondbacks uniform, as he'll be going against Tyler Megden for the A's. And then in Philadelphia, it'll be Aaron Nola against Jaime Garcia as he makes his return to the rotation after being injured. In Milwaukee, it'll be Chase Anderson against Jason Vargas for the Mets as they continue that series over the weekend. In Miami, Tanner Roark against Wei-Yin Chen for the Marlins. In Cleveland, Lance McCullers Jr. against Carlos Carrasco. These two teams probably have they're both top 5 rotations in the league right now, at least top 1 through 3. You say Brewer. The best rotation in the league is clearly the Astros, 1 through 5. No doubt about that. But Carrasco also pitching well as McCullers and him both will be going tomorrow. McCullers 6-2 with that 3.20 ERA. Carrasco 5-3 with a 3.65 ERA. And then around the rest of the league, as we have Sonny Gray will be going against the Angels. They have yet to announce the starter, though, for tomorrow. The Angels have, as they face the Yankees in the Bronx. And then on Sunday, I'm sure we'll have a Shohei Ohtani start for the Angels. As actually, wait, hold on. They're going to put Masahiro Tanaka against Garrett Richards. All right. Maybe some rainouts are changing. Usually, I always expect Ohtani on a Sunday, not this Sunday. Garrett Richards against Masahiro Tanaka for that game. Chris Sale will be facing Mike Volchanevich in Boston as they finish up that series. In Chicago, it'll be Ty Blach against Yu Darvish for the Cubs. Scott Shields for the White Sox against Blaine Hardy for the Tigers on that game on Sunday. It'll be the best game. Okay, here we go. Finally got it. Royals and Tigers. We got Jason Hamill against Cole Hamels. Jason Hamill against Cole Hamels in this game in Texas. As Jason Hamill's 1-5 with a 5.70 ERA, 33 strikeouts. Hamels with is 3-4 with a 3.38 ERA, 64 strikeouts on the year for him. I love that. The Hamels and Hamels, Hamill and Hamels. Gotta say it. In Oakland, it'll be Zach Greinke against Trevor Cahill. Cahill pitching against his former team. Greinke did allow 3 home runs in his last start in the loss in Milwaukee, but the Diamondbacks, they need to get their offense figured out to get some support for Greinke. He's not able to get any support in the last few starts as he's been pitching well, but as 0-1. It'll be a nice cool little pitching performance in pitching matchups in Pittsburgh. Miles Mikolas against Jameson Taillon, a pair of young right-handers. Mikolas looks to go 7-0 as he'll start that series finale in Pittsburgh. Obviously, a guy who has kind of come out of nowhere for the Cardinals. If you're a Cardinals fan, you probably know who he was. But and then Jameson Taillon, the much highly touted prospect for the Pirates, is 2-4 with that 4.58, 5.6 ERA, 48 strikeouts for him as he'll be patient again, obviously, to get dinged up by a grand slam in the game he pitched last time. That was in Cincinnati. All right, any other games? Matt Harvey will make another start against for the Reds as the Rockies and the Reds play in Colorado. Jermaine Marquez will be going for the Rockies. Jay Happ against Nick Pivetta in Philadelphia, and to finish off that series there, Happ 6-3 with a 3.97 ERA, Pivetta 4-2 with a 3.23 ERA in that one. And then in Houston, the big one, It'll be Garrett Cole against Trevor Bauer. We talked about it at the beginning to start off the show. These two guys have had some. I mean, I don't think Cole has really said that much. Trevor Bauer has been more the talker, as he's definitely pointing the finger at Cole for maybe using some illicit substances in order to gain a competitive advantage, aka pine tar on your fingertips to get more grip on the ball, more spin rate on your fastball and curveball. Which is, I mean, is that why he's been so good? He's been good for a long time. But he's pitching very well this season in his new uniform. And then in Washington, it'll be a Steven Strasburg start against Eliezer Hernandez for the Marlins, as Strasburg looks to get his 6th win on the year. He's 5-4 with a 3.36 ERA, 75 strikeouts for Strasburg. All right, we have reached the end of the show today, as we have gone over all the games for the weekend, all the good pitching matchups I've noted for you. We're going to be, I mean, if we're, obviously I'm expecting a good weekend. It's going to be crazy. I mean, there's some great pitching matchups. I can't wait till Sunday. We're going to have that Hamill and Hamels, or the Cole and Bauer, obviously, going on, in Cleveland. So, everybody have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday to recap these games, that we just previewed, of course, like we do every week, and then give you some storylines, and we'll probably be talking a while about that Cole and Bauer start as well. So if it lives up to the hype that we're getting to. All right, so everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.